Hola, culés. I hope everyone's doing so much better than a couple of days when we lost to Inter. Even last night, I'm still staring at the ceiling. Why couldn't we play defense for 90 minutes and we're full attack mode? But anyway, guys, I had a great conversation with RSM. I'm going to put his name on the title of this video. So, guys, please click on it, subscribe to his channel. That would mean so much to me. And, guys, I know you enjoyed last conversation. So, here is our second conversation, and we're going to keep this going. So, make sure you like and subscribe and let us know that you love this content so we can make it for you guys more often. So I hope you guys enjoy. With RSM, thank you so much, man. I really loved the last conversation we had about the semifinals for the first leg. And unfortunately for me, myself, and all Barca Nation, we couldn't get it done. And there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of aftermath going on right now with Araujo. There's a lot of stuff to go with Barcelona inexperience, and it's the brutal truth. I thought the Inter wasn't really the superior team throughout the whole series, throughout the time, but they dominated in the scoreboard. I thought that Barcelona had to climb a Mount Everest twice. It was 2-0 in the first leg. It was 2-0 in the second leg in that first half. So both halves going Inter Milan's way, even though Barcelona could have played better, could have scored a few chances on those two first half. But Barcelona one more time, like we talked about this early in the first half, early in the second half, getting scored on. It's just like a theme going for this team. And I just think that I can analyze this as much, all day. But I thought that inexperience really showed. And even though Inter Milan, got scored on twice, and Barcelona came back because it was more to do with Barca than it was with Inter, because that's what they do, right? That's what Barca does. They come back. But Inter Milan was never gave up. Team of warriors. I thought they just had more experience, more physical, and just keep coming, keep coming. And at the end of the day, I want to get your thoughts. What do you think it's the main reason why Barca is not playing in the final?
I do think that the main reason I do think it comes down to a bit of inexperience. And why I say that is this reminds me of past Barca teams right before they exploded, where you could see that they needed a bit more experience under their belt, and I think that showed. I mean, dude, the average age of the Inter team was like 30 something. Like these guys were veterans,
Yeah,
they were warriors,
yeah.
and it showed. And I think for me, one of the biggest moments that showed that is, and I think that's something that PSG did really well in getting Kvaratskhelia, because that
Mhm.
guy is a league winner. He's been there. He's been in these type of moments himself. And
Yes.
you look at this PSG tie, and it's the dying minutes of the game, extra time. What are they doing with the ball?
Yeah, yeah. They're wasting time in the corner,
They're
and
in the
that's
corner,
exactly.
passing it to each other. It's like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like we can talk about all the analysis for this game, but at the end of the day, Barca, it's all out on attack mode at 2.5 minutes going for the throat, right? You got to respect it. My man, Lamine Jamal and everything. What a game. We're
see,
going to be
that's
talking
the
about
thing.
him.
Lamine Yamal has a bit of an excuse. He's 17. Some of the other players, they don't have the same amount of grace, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you have, but that's the thing though. You can talk about Lamine Jamal not wasting time at the end of that game, but also Pedri gave him the ball. Pedri could have passed it back, all the way back, because he had the ball. I thought he was really poised in that moment, because he there was like three Inter Milan players, and somehow, some way, he gets out. And I thought he was gonna pass it back. He ends up passing it to Lamine Jamal, and Lamine Jamal, he's gonna do what he do. Like he's just gonna dribble past players. He's gonna try to score, and he almost, to his credit, he almost did. But at the end of the day, how can you be in all attack mode at the end of that second half with so much on the line? There was literally five Barcelona. I think we all seen it. Five Barcelona players on Inter Milan's half, instead of having a well positioned, sort of like a low block on the other side. Like
Yeah,
it's just crazy to me that how Hansi Flick. I thought he could have done better there. What do you think?
I agree, and I think it speaks to the fact that it's not a coincidence that both games, the first half, happened the exact way that it did. That shows that Inzaghi's game plan, it works, and then Flick has to adapt on the fly. And that I said you could get away with that the first game, and we spoke about this, where how is Flick going to respond to the way that Inter proposed the game at the beginning of the first half? And he changed nothing. And I think that that is something that Flick has to look at himself and say, I didn't do well enough. I got outcoached by the same tactic twice, back to back. That's not acceptable. It's good that whatever he said to the team, whatever changes he might have made, I think I noticed in that second half, Rafinha was playing more centrally, right?
Yeah, he
And
played
Martin was
better than
taking
her.
more of the and Martin played more of the wing position. That's clearly, obviously, because Flick told him to do that. That's good, but why didn't we start the game that way, right?
Yeah,
Because Rafinha was kind of a ghost in that first half. You see
big
him,
time.
bro, you see him move over into that middle position. And again, this is what I was saying, and I think I criticize Arsenal for it, and I criticize PSG for it, and I think this is what something that Inter has is teams when you get to these point in the tournaments, and this is the thing that why I love Drogba, bro, is when it's the big moment, you just need the striker that's gonna put the ball in the back of the net, right? And because you guys, Lewandowski, unfortunately, seems like he wasn't, up
Yeah,
to speed.
he wasn't
You guys,
ready.
you guys saw the way that Ferran was wasting these chances, and a big part of, like I said, and I've said this for months, like the big part of Barca's strategy is having Lewandowski there as that experienced person, right? To be able to
Yeah,
sniff out the goal, to be able to get in the chances. I mean, one of them, it was that Ferran just stopped running full pace. Like I think he would have gotten there, I think in the first half to one of those chances, but he just kind of ran and then jogged and then tried to run once the pass was already there. That's not what you do. An experienced center forward continues to run the entire way through because you'd rather, be a bit ahead of the ball because you can stick your leg back out. But if you're behind it, there's nothing you can do. You're just
there's
watching it
nothing
go
you
by.
can
There's nothing you can
see.
do. And so, go ahead.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like for me, how can I say this? Like somebody said it on Twitter, and they said like it's so frustrating that the best Barcelona, the best team, right? Barcelona, they propose the game, they impose their will, they control the middle of the field, and it seems like really unfair for a lot of Barcelona fans. It seems really unfair that we're not in the final, and even though we played the best, but it just didn't show in the scoreboard. And I see that. And somebody said, well, what about Real Madrid? They don't always play their best, but they always get the result. And I think it's when experience matters. And I want to ask you something because I thought there's an interesting point, and the point I'm trying to make is: do you think that the UCL is a different tournament in the sense of it reminds me of that Manchester City has been the best team by far for the last, if we scratch this year, for the last maybe 4 or 5 years. They only got one Champions League, and Real Madrid, Barcelona had the same look that Manchester City had when they were up 2-1. Grealish is down the stretch on the left wing on a 1-on-1 against, I don't know if it was Courtois or Lunin. they it, he missed it. I think he saved it or something like that, but I just can't remember exactly. But that's Manchester City trying to go up 3-1 right there, just going for the
Yeah.
throw, just like Lamine Yamal was on that play. And guess what happens? The next couple sequences, Real Madrid ties the game. Tuchel, no, not Tuchel, Pep Guardiola made a few changes, didn't work, and then all of a sudden you go to overtime, and I think, I don't know if it was an overtime or it was in regulation, but either or, that's neither here nor there. Real Madrid came back and won that game 3-2
Yeah.
after they almost put the game away. But that's the thing, is the Champions League a different type of tournament? Because we've seen Inter Milan right now, and they weren't the best team on paper, but they knew when to attack. They knew when to stay, play defense, and they knew when to attack. And that's the thing that Barcelona was really missing in this game in particular. And it seems like this isn't the first year where Barcelona was one of the favorites to win the UCL, and they just keep disappointment after disappointment. So that's why I want to ask you. I know it's a little of a long question there, but is the UCL a different type of tournament?
The UCL is a different beast, and I think a lot of teams, know that. And I mean, again, perfect example is today, right? Arsenal. They've had great teams in the past, and they haven't been able to get it across the line. It's not easy. It's very difficult. And for me, I think it was a perfect example that you gave, right, about City's dominance, and they only got one UCL, right?
Yeah,
And that one UCL that they got, what change did Pep Guardiola make that year that they finally won it? Who came into that team? One Erling Haaland.
yeah,
Erling Haaland would not stereotypically be the type of player that you think Pep would like. He's not technical. He's not good with the ball at his feet. He only has
hmm
one job: be a presence in the box, score the goals. and he does that better than anybody else. And they got a treble. They didn't just win the UCL; they got a treble, clean
Yeah.
sweep.
Yeah.
That just proves to me that the UCL just demands more of a player and of a team. And I think that's where I have to give credit to Inzaghi, because he's not doing this with a massive transfer budget. He's not doing this, with players at the prime of their careers.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a band of misfits. I mean, you have a couple good players here, and like maybe a Bastoni, but I think everybody knows, nobody's yearning to try to get Dumfries onto their team. Nobody's trying
Yeah.
to break the bank to get Taram on their team. But
Exactly. So
he found the system that works for the players that he has, and unfortunately, I think that's where Flick was maybe lacking in this game, because when it comes to these one-off games and you're dealing with injuries, I knew that the back line was going to be suspect, unfortunately, because I watched Barca this season, and the fullbacks are such an essential part of the way that you guys play,
yeah.
that you can't just have both fullbacks go down and continue to try to play the same way. It's impossible. And for a lot of Inter's goals, I look at it and I'm asking, what are the fullbacks doing? Why is this man
Mm-hmm.
in so much space? Because they're just not used to like doing this, looking over their
Yeah.
shoulder, seeing where the runner is, because they're inexperienced, and that's where Flick needs to change it up a bit. Hey, these are inexperienced. Maybe let's move the line back a bit.
Yeah.
Crazy thought. We can move the line back a bit, like especially once you're 3-2 up. It's time to set up shop. And this is the thing where
Yeah.
you said sometimes it felt unfair, right, to a lot of Barca.
Yeah.
Bro, I'm a Chelsea fan. And people hated us for a long time because we were winning 1-0. We got our one goal. We're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Like, we're
Yeah.
setting up shop. Break us down if you can.
I
And
remember the Iniestazo. Oh my God, how we were going to break you guys on that game, on that second leg. Like it was the semifinals, right? And
yep.
and then Iniesta scores that banger. It's the only way. It's so crazy.
But that's exactly. But that again, another example of how the UCL, when you come up against these very defensive teams, right, that are able to be clinical on the counterattack, you need to have an actual strategy. You can rely on moments of brilliance, but you need to build the team around maybe facilitating that moment of brilliance, right? And that's where I think Lamine, bro, he was doing as much as he could out there. That was
Yeah,
a one man army job. I'm being so
incredible.
serious. I mean, this kid, like he out of anybody on that pitch, he deserved to go to the final.
Yeah,
Football doesn't work like that, but
I
he
know.
he gave everything, and it made me upset because you look at some of the veterans like Olmo. Come on, I know Olmo got his goal, but I
Yeah.
think anybody could admit he should have done better there. As an experienced head, he should have done better there.
He played better in the second half, which goes to show you what would have happened if he would have played that kind of performance that he put on the second half on the first half. Because on the second half, he was getting recoveries, he was getting more dribbles, more passes, and in the first half, just nowhere to be found. And it was just,
But do you know why though?
hmm
Because once Rafinha vacated that left hand space and went more centrally, that means Inter Milan had somebody else to try to to cover in that midfield position. So it gave almost so many more pockets and time in the
hmm
middle. But that's why, again, I go back to Flick. Why did you not? The Inter Milan set up the exact same way for the second leg, first
yeah.
half. They changed nothing. So why didn't you come up with the the strategy that Flick clearly had in his back pocket in the
Well,
second half? Why not in the first half?
yeah, and congrats to Inter. In my heart of hearts, I wish them the best. I want them to actually win it. I don't want Dembele to win it. Like we're all Barca nation, nobody wants Dembele lifting that
Uh,
trophy and getting a Ballon d'Or. Come on. So we want
mhm.
Inter to win. So that's clear. But give them credit. They played great. They knew when to pick their spots. And also, I don't know if I understood you correctly, but if this is what you meant, I think I have a little bit of a disagreement. I thought the Inter Milan played a little bit different in the second leg as they did on the first leg, because I saw them pressuring. I saw a lot of pressure on Pedri early in the game for the first 20 minutes. Pedri just really couldn't find his rhythm. I didn't think Frankie de Jong really was really playing with even Pedri. The as a matter of fact, the first goal came in because they were trying to pressure Gerard Martin. They had two guys on Pedri, and Inigo Martinez wanted to go with Pedri, but Pedri had two guys on him, so he goes to Olmo. Olmo tries to do something crazy instead of just doing a give and go with Pedri, and ends up losing the ball because the Marco was marking, and then all of a sudden, he gets a great pass to Turan in stride, and that's all she wrote. But I do. That's why I want to give them credit, because I did feel like they were taking more risk in the beginning of the game as they did in the first game, where we just basically literally gave the ball to Barca and said we're just going to counter. And I just thought they had played with a little bit more high pressure. I don't know if that's what you meant.
And that's where I think that I go back to the absence of the fullbacks. I really think that if you guys had Balde and Kunde, they
Yeah,
wouldn't have done that.
it would have
I
been
think
the
the fact
difference.
that yeah, I think that if those two are there, I don't think that Inzaghi tells them to press that hard because he knows with them on the pitch, you're gonna play at the press. And again, this is not to try to say like again, I don't want to spread hate because I know like
Yeah,
these are inexperienced fullbacks, you know, from the academy. Like some of them, like they don't have the minutes under the belt to be able to play in these type of games. But like I mean, like I said, like Flick, you had to sometimes you had to protect the weakest parts of your team,
yeah, and
and
yeah,
sometimes like you can, and that's where again, as where I criticize Omar, right? Like if you see that if like some you can't be idle on the ball because I think if it was Kunde or like I said, if it was Kunde right there, I think he would have passed it to him. I think he would have trusted Kunde pass, and I trust you to play at the pressure, go along, whatever you decide to do. But Omo felt in that moment, right? Like, oh, I don't trust necessarily the moment I'm in. I don't know
yeah,
about the fullbacks, so I'm gonna try to do it myself. I'm gonna try to take responsibility on myself.
yeah.
And he was in his head a bit. Like he almost not usually that slow on the ball. That's
Made
what
a
killed me
mistake.
about that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting in basketball. I don't know if you watch any basketball, but in basketball, there's a lot right now. They're in the playoffs, right? And I watch a lot of the Lakers, but I mostly watch like the playoffs.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is like in basketball, basically all the teams that make it to the playoffs, they're everybody's really good. And from what I've seen in basketball, it really just comes down to the bench, and
Yeah, for
whoever can
sure.
come out of the bench and give you more points, more minutes, those are the teams that usually come out on top, because my five guys are just as good as your five guys, and it just comes down to when they're getting the resting minutes, all the superstars are getting the rest, and other players can come out and do something. And to me, it just kind of resonated for this game because uh, Taremi came into this game, Fratesi came into this game. One of them was the one that gave the assist on the tie to tie the game. The other one was actually the guy who scored, which reminded me of that goal from Dani Olmo. That the 4-3 reminded me the goal that Dani Olmo scored on Leganés when the game was really like a really low block, and he broke it, but just pump faking inside the box and pump fakes, and then takes a shot, and then it just barely misses Kubarsi's foot, and it goes right in an amazing goal. And to me, I think this is kind of the story also. It's a kind of an untold story with Inter Milan's, how everybody that came into that game, and you can look it up even on SofaScore, and all these guys came in and they're all in greens. All the Barca bench that came in, they're all in yellows because they're 6.5s, 5.8, 5.9, and it's just like, and all the Inter players are like 7.5, 7.3, 7.4. It's like you take a look at the bench as well, and that was also the difference in the game.
Yeah. That's where I think that the injuries definitely hindered your bench a bit, and I do think that that's something that you guys clearly have to address in the upcoming transfer market as well. I mean, I agree with you. I think in basketball because you have five people, the difference that one player can make is astronomical, right? When you have your superstar wrestling minutes, the person that comes in can have a lot of impact because there's not that many. When you have a team of 11,
Yeah,
um, maybe you have a bit more leeway, but that's why I think he made two changes at a time pretty much. And I remember
yeah,
I was watching the game with my boys, and I was saying like, bro, Inzaghi is trying to win this in regular time because he
yeah,
pretty much used every single sub he had. I was like, he's not trying to
yeah.
lose, and he's
And
not trying to
Flick
go to
was
extra
not
time.
subbing anybody out, and I
That's
noticed.
what I was saying. I'm like, well, like you have to do something. I was saying clearly, this is going to have an impact because these boys are tired. They've been chasing the match pretty much since the 2
Hmm.
0 You and I remember because this is exactly stuff that has happened this season that I criticized Maresca for and his inexperience. And that's what happened in the Fulham match, for example. We're up 1-0, and for whatever reason, the team they look dead in the water. And Fulham
Hmm.
makes three subs at once, and
Yeah.
and the three subs get the two goals and the assist to come back 2-1, and we end up losing that match. And it's one of those things where like you have to respond. That is where you also make your money as a manager. In
Hmm.
those moments when you have to start saying, all right, I got to take this person off, this person comes on, and I think Flick was too slow, but at the same time, I agree with you that there's a quality issue as well as to who's coming off the bench exactly.
Yeah, and even after all that, Barca had it 3-2, man. Like, it's just frustrating for me. What really hurts me the most is really that storyline where Barca was just 2 minutes, I think it was like a minute and 40 seconds actually from
Yeah.
winning that game. And then you score that goal, you go to the final. That's it, even after all the mistakes, even after allowing 6 goals. But to me, another thing is like that's really baffling. It's just how bad was Barcelona's defense, how just basically just imploded, right? Because it just, you cannot allow Inter to score 7 goals out of 9 big chances. They only missed 2 big chances in the whole tie. Like
Yep.
you cannot. And Barca, I think Barca had like 2 goals out of 6 or out of 7, something like that. And it's not even close. You scored 2 goals out of like 7 big chances, but the other team is scoring 7 out of 9. That's it's just literally like that's the difference in the game. And it's a great point. You keep mentioning Inzaghi because a lot of Barca fans don't want to say this, but I think that Hansi Flick got out coach for the first time, and it was at the biggest time, and it's just by living and dying by the high line.
Yep. It's one of those things where you also have to give the idea that Inzaghi has been working with this team for a long time.
Yeah,
You know, 2 years ago they just made the final. You know, they ended up losing that against City, but it's that type of stuff that, you know, oftentimes when a team makes a final, you see them back in it again within the next 2 years. And I do think that we're going to see Barca go back into. I think you guys have shown, especially with Lamine Yamal building around them, you are going to
yeah,
be able to have enough to make it into the later stages of the Champions League. It's just you really do need to work on the defense, not only the actual strategy, right, in terms of the high line and managing games better, just game management, but also in terms of quality. Because I think, and I think you mentioned this as well at the beginning, is a topic of conversation. Sadly, has to be right when we speak about inexperience. Is the
yeah,
experience that you do have? What is it doing? Because let's be being sincere. I think it's time. I think Araujo's time at Barcelona sadly may
yeah,
be over because he has to hold some smoke. There's been too many back-to-back years where in big moments he is one of the main people that you can pinpoint. Even you know, in the past, right, with the red card, but even this right here for for the goals. I mean, I don't think he was doing. I don't know. Is it
yeah.
a mental thing?
No.
Is it an injury thing? Like he's just not doing enough. He's not doing what he used to do. There's just been a drop off, and it's
Yeah,
clear.
this is lack of concentration. You cannot allow Turam to dribble you. That's just it's just childish. How can a player who is basically gassed at the end of the game, they couldn't sub him out. There was no more subs.
Yep.
Lautaro was injured or wasn't 100%. He came out of that game, and he's literally just like not even running around, not even doing anything. He was just there, dude. And then he gets a ball in the corner, and he just dribbled him like Messi dribbled Gavardiol in the World
The
Cup.
World Cup. Yep.
That's insane, and it just oh my god, and it's Araujo, and he only been playing for like 15 minutes, and he was already looking like he was tired. It just to me it
That's
has to be
honestly.
over, and I think Barcelona, if they are serious about winning the UCL, I mean, we literally just wasted a virtuoso by Lamine Yamal. He didn't have any assists, he didn't have any goals, but at the end of the day, it was ultimately Sommer who stabbed Lamine Yamal for literally winning a Ballon d'Or in the semifinals. If
It
had
was.
Barcelona win this game
Mm,
and Lamine Yamal scores those two
mm.
chances that Sommer stopped, today we're talking about Lamine Yamal winning the Ballon d'Or.
It's one of those things where you look at even, you know, the game that PSG had against Liverpool. Any other keeper but Allison, the scoreline is like 6-1
Yeah,
PSG.
yeah,
It's one of those things where Summer probably had one of the games of his life.
yeah,
Um, and you can't. And I mean, when and this is my thing. Even without the GNA, he was putting so much pressure on that back line. He was putting so much pressure on Summer to make these saves in the first place. Some of these saves were insane. Like we're talking fingertips on the ball
yeah,
to barely get the ball out of play. I remember that one shot where I just thought, I'm like, whoa, did Lamine just completely miss that? Then you look on the replay, Summer got
yeah.
his finger literally 2 fingertips
Oh
on it.
my God! The one you're
Like,
talking about, the one inside the
yes,
box, right? Oh
yeah. I
my!
mean,
He even looked shocked. He looked shocked that
dude,
Lamine
he
Yamal looked like he was shocked, saying like, "That's my shot. How can you stop that? That's my shot. Like I don't miss that." Like he had that the crazy look in his face. It was just
yeah. I mean, it was one of those things where I think that's what I'm saying. Like, anytime that a keeper is like one of the a potential man of the match, it just kind of shows you the type of offense that the other team was providing. And I agree. I think it's a wasted performance. I mean, it really is. And I
at
feel
17, bro.
one of the positives I can say is this is definitely a character building thing, and I
Yeah.
think if you're Lamine, right, you know that, and this is the type of mentality that you need to have to become to be at the top of the game. You know, it's the same thing that Cristiano had, that Messi had, that all the greats have. They have that winning mentality no matter what. So
Mm-hmm.
you need to, you as I mean, you're saying I'm carrying this team on my back. Then you need to get people around me that are able to do what they need to do. Like,
Yeah.
listen, you know, all love to La Masia, right? All shout out to all these players. Shout out to I have a good friendship with Ferran Torres. But if he's not giving me the UCL, you gotta get me somebody better.
Yeah. And that was interesting because that's my next topic. I want to ask you like what Barca can do to win the Champions League next season. In my opinion, it has to start from the goalkeeper. Chesney is doing a great job. He made an incredible save
Serviceable.
in overtime. He made a great save. That could have been 4-2. That he kept us at least to have some hope at the end.
Yeah.
But ultimately, he still allowed, some of those goals, though. I mean, it was hard to blame him for some of them, but I would say we need a new keeper. Some people have been saying that John Garcia from Espanyol, which it just seems, even the PSG game today, like 2 or 3 saves from Donnarumma, and it's just the difference in the game. Sommer yesterday was the difference in the game. After so much Inter did to come back in that game, they will still get run by Barca had he not had a great performance like he did. Maybe he only stops one goal from Lamine Yamal. Maybe Lamine Yamal scores one of those, and maybe he doesn't stop the Eddie goal. And then that's maybe a 5-2 we're talking about, 5-3 we're talking about, and Barca goes through. But instead, it's Inter Milan because they have a player like Sommer, a keeper like that can do that. I definitely think that Barca needs to get rid of Araujo. And like you said, sometimes we just have to hear the truth and we just have to accept it. Some players that are not contributing in the game, whether they're La Masia or not, they need to go. And at the end of the day, I think Barcelona just needs, like for example, we can get Christensen there. Some depending on next season, the kind of form that he's in, but definitely Araujo needs to go. I definitely think that Ter Stegen needs to go, and
Yeah.
Chesney, maybe Chesney can be the second goalkeeper if he
Yep.
wants to take a pay
Cup
cut.
keeper. The cup keeper.
But we need to have a good goalkeeper, and we need to have a sub. To me, this is only my opinion. Most Barca fans are not going to agree with this. I also think that Rafinha's season is not going to get better next year, and I think this is a
Mm,
like a one season wonder type of thing. It's going to be really hard for Rafinha
a
to have
flash in the pan.
the same numbers this year, and his
Yeah.
stock has never been higher. I thought that Barcelona in this game needed another player like Lamine Yamal, somebody who can do something different, somebody who can dribble 1-on-1, and they were lacking some of that with Rafinha down on the left. And I think we really suffered had we had a player say like Nico Williams, maybe somebody like Lookman, somebody who can create something in the second half, even if it's just a substitution, somebody who can come in the second half. But we just don't have anybody down the wings, nobody for Lamine Yamal. We don't have nobody for Rafinha, even if we want to keep Rafinha, right? So those are the things that Barcelona, I feel like we do need a world-class striker as well. So there are a few things that Barca can tweak, I think, for me, if they're serious about winning the Champions League. Get the defense right, get it done, get the goalkeeper, and probably somebody down the wing.
Yeah. I think in order to win the UCL, I think Flick is going to learn from this. I doubt that he's going to continue to allow results to get away like this, because I mean it's even happened this season in La Liga where you guys have a comfortable game and you just let the other team
Yeah,
get 2 goals back in the game for no reason. I've seen it like 3-0 to 3-2, and now all of a sudden you guys are under pressure at the end of the game praying that the ref blows the whistle. And it's all because like you're 3-0 up, but you persist with the high line for no reason. So I
yeah.
think he needs to, unfortunately, that's one of those things you just need to train out of the team. You need to like say, listen, yeah, I know it's ingrained in us now to have that high line, but when we get the result, we need to start practicing how it is to bring the line back to be more of a mid block than a high block.
I
And
can't
another thing,
can't believe he subbed out Martinez too, man. Like that was crazy,
that
even when it
was
was happening in real time.
I didn't understand it. Maybe the only explanation I could have had for that is yellow. He was on a yellow. Like that's the only explanation I could possibly think of why.
You
Other than
gotta
that,
trust your
I didn't get
players.
it,
You gotta trust your best players in the biggest moments.
dude. And for
And
me, especially when both of your fullbacks are out, listen, shout out Kubarsi, but he is a kid. He needs an
yeah,
experienced head next to him.
Yeah.
And Araujo right now is not that. His decision making is poor. His form is bad. There is no reason to put that next to Kubarsi because that just makes
Yeah.
the kid nervous. He gets nervous. I see it happen. And even with speaking on the keeper, it's one of those things where I even said this even before Chesney, right? When you guys had Ter Stegen when he got that red card, I said if that was an Allison back there, right? If that was like a top keeper back there, maybe maybe Araujo doesn't go for the red because they trust the keeper to maybe try to save the 1-on-1.
Yeah.
But when you have a keeper that the backline doesn't trust, it makes him nervous. And then when you
Yeah.
have a young player like Kubarsi, and you put him next to Araujo who's in bad form, it compounds. And then you have both fullbacks gone. That's what I'm saying. It's like there was too much there that needed to. It exposed the transfer market weaknesses that have been had. And I agree with you 100%. I think it's a tough pill to swallow for Barca, especially because you guys love La Masia players. I know you guys do, but you have to admit the harsh truth that sometimes some of them are not good enough, and you need to find solutions in the market for that, or at the very least, like, because it's the same thing that happens sometimes at Chelsea. Some people are like, "Listen, why are we gonna buy players when we're gonna block the the path that some of the academy kids have to?" And I'm like, "Listen, it was the same thing with Reece James, and then we got
Mm-hmm.
Gusto, and Gusto performed really well last season for us, right? And we kind of forgot about Reece James. But before we got Gusto, people were saying, "Oh no, but we can get another academy kid." And I'm like, "Listen, sometimes when a player is out, we need this quality depth on the bench to get us through the season or to get
Mm-hmm.
us through games. We can't continue to hope that the academy gives us a kid. And obviously for us, this happened. We got the transfer ban, right? And then we had to play a lot of more of the academy kids, and we found a couple gems. Um, but people kind of got obsessed with this idea that we're going to be able to do that every time.
Yeah.
No, sometimes you have to go in the transfer market. You have to put the money down. And I agree with you. I think, and I said this before, the two positions you can never compromise on the team, and that's the thing that Chelsea's struggling with up top and at the back.
Yeah.
So and it gets worse the further extremes you go. Your
Yeah.
keeper and the
Mm-hmm.
striker. Those are the two biggest things. And I think I agree with you 100%. I think Rafinha is not going to become a total bum, but putting up this season's numbers, it has yet to be seen. He doesn't give me the confidence as he's gonna be able to do that. And
Yeah.
Lewandowski, unfortunately, like he is going to get slower.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
time waits for no one.
Yeah. No. And so I want to ask you as a neutral. Let's talk real quick about controversial refereeing in this game.
Mm.
Um, I don't think that the Gerard Martin was a foul. When I saw it on real time, I thought he was really soft. He could have also just kind of like a throw in or something, just do something with the ball, but just he tries to control it and he loses the battle and he feels the contact and then he's really soft on that play. It's a 50-50. If the ref wants to call it, you can call it. If a ref don't want to call it, I think it's whatever the ref decides at that point. I think it's fine. But I do disagree with the Lamine Yamal penalty kick because even Archivo Bar came out and said, if there's a follow through play and there's a contact outside the box and then there's contact inside the box, that's a penalty. And for the ref to just say by this much without even going to bar, I thought that was really
Well,
questionable, and that was
it's one of those things where VAR told them, right? VAR told them like, oh, we checked it, it's a couple inches, but it's outside the box. And I agree to completely because that is the way that the law is interpreted, right? The way that the rules are interpreted is that
yeah,
even if the player initiates contact, right, when the player goes down, that also matters. And it's the same thing with fouls, right? It's not only the fact that you made contact; it's the fact, okay, after you made contact, right? Are your studs up? Are you going up their leg? Are you going
yeah,
down their leg, right, with your foot? Like these type of things, we don't look at just the moment that the contact is made. We
yeah,
also look at what happens after. And because the momentum, he went to ground outside of the box, but
yeah,
the actual tackle happened, the actual foul happened inside the box because
yeah.
obviously they're both running forward. So for me, I agree with you. I think that should have been a penalty. I
At
think
least
that
look to me. At least if it's gonna be a no call, and I want the referee to go to the screen and actually take a look at it because bar should not be enforcing what the ref saw or didn't see. So they're there to correct, not to correct an incorrect call, for lack of a better word, if you know what I'm saying. But in that moment, bar cannot say it's not a pen. Bar has to say, I think you have to go look at it. I don't think it's a pen, but you need to go see it. And the referee has to go to the screen, take a look at it, and then say, okay, you want to say it's off for a little bit? You can say it's off for a little bit. I don't care. But you saw it and you made a decision. In 2019, Vinicius Jr. had the exact same play in the UCL. And this is what frustrates us Barca fans because Madrid sometimes they don't play their best, but the referee when it's a 50-50 always goes their way, and that's the frustrating thing for us. In 2019, Vinicius Jr. gets tackled outside the box, gets touched inside the box, and the referee goes to take a look at it, and they gave him a penalty, and it was called just like Lamine Yamal. It was called a foul outside, and then they looked at it and they said no, he gets contact inside the box and he gets the penalty kick. And not only that, but also the Inter Milan player who actually made the tackle was on a yellow, and that was clearly a yellow card that could have changed the game
It was a
entirely.
goal scoring opportunity that he cut off for sure. It's one of those things where I agree with you. I think VAR is supposed to be used in instances, and this is what the law says, right? Is when there is a clear and obvious error that the referee has made or missed, right? And that's when they call him in. And for me, if on the field, he calls a pen or doesn't call a pen, like he should be, I agree with you 100%, asked to look at it. Like,
Yeah.
listen, this is a close call. It may be a 50-50, but we need you to take a look at it.
Yeah.
The fact that VAR didn't ask him to take a look at it, I think for me is where they messed up.
Have you ever seen that? Like, have you ever seen like a referee call not just a pen in general, but like, have you ever seen like a ref call something, and then Bar telling him to do something different than what he called, and then without even going to look at it, saying it's not? Like, I just don't remember if a referee like in the past has he called a pen, and then the bar is calling
That
him to say
has
it's a pen, and then he changes his decision without going to the screen. I just don't remember. I don't remember.
the only time that I think that happens is unfortunately this exact type of situation, because they're asked to go to the screen when it's in discussion of whether or not there is a foul, right?
Hmm.
But unfortunately, in this case, it's clearly a foul. The
Yeah,
issue at hand is where did the foul occur, right? And so obviously the VAR at that point, it's in their hands to decide,
yeah.
and VAR decided that it was outside the box.
So
But I agree though. Like if they give the pen on the field and it's a couple inches or whatever, VAR should not intervene in that instance, because clearly, like, I don't know. I feel like they're supposed to overturn decisions that are clearly wrong. Like
yeah,
if
yeah,
if that was given as a pen, no one was complaining, because the full contact when Lamine fully went down because
yeah.
he got slide tackled was in the box. The contact was initiated outside the box, but he went down
Yeah.
in the box. I'm saying nobody would have complained. I don't know why VR felt the need to step in there and try to change the decision.